Hi guys, can you hear me? Um, Mike's asked me to talk again about being a habitation of the presence of God. So I talked last week on this. I looked at a passage from Exodus 33 about the presence of God. But I kind of felt I rushed through it. It's the kind of passage I could have easily made a sermon out of, and probably would have done if we were not in this situation. And so really, I just very quickly gave three points that I thought were important. And what I want to do over the next few weeks is actually kind of flesh those out and talk a bit longer about each point. So I want to talk about the first point I made last week, which came from verse 11, where it talked about God speaking to Moses face to face. And this term face to face, it's a Hebrew idiom really that means intimacy or closeness. And it doesn't say that about Aaron the high priest or anyone else then, just Moses. So clearly Moses had this closeness of relationship no one else had there. But that's now available to all of us as the Holy Spirit lives in us. I just want to think for a minute about the people you're closest to and how you became really close to them. And you might think of, special times you've enjoyed together, things you've done, but essentially it's going to be spending time with them. And so nothing else is going to make up for spending time with people in terms of bringing that closeness. I remember growing up, often in the church, you'd hear phrases like, we really need to do business with God. And it gave this idea that as Christians, we're kind of slacking in some way. We need to take this more seriously. And in some ways, that's not a bad thing. But I don't know, I find it a bit jarring. Imagine you replace the name God with the name of someone you love there. Really want to do business with my family. It just doesn't make sense, does it? It's not how we speak about it. And I think it's because the church has kind of been infiltrated by the Western concept that nothing is more important than what you achieve. And so that doing business with God, it's like, I'm going to achieve great things for God. And it's not a bad thing to want to achieve things for God, but ultimately, first and foremost, we want intimacy with God. Jesus' primary concern for us is not what we achieve for him, it's that we spend time with him. You see that when Jesus was asked what the greatest commandment is, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind and strength, and love your neighbour as you love yourself. And I know he went on to then in the Great Commission tell us to go and make disciples of all nations. But even that, when you understand discipleship properly, is about creating relationships. And it's going to be that time spent with God, showing our love for him, that is going to bring the habitation of the presence of God in our households and in our church. These days, there's thousands upon thousands of Christian books that will tell you they've unlocked the secret for how to have a great walk with God, how to have a great prayer time. And there's good stuff in those things. But overall, there's no substitute for just spending time with God. What you actually do is secondary to just choosing to spend time with God. And the lockdown situation may have robbed us of many things, including spending time with people we love, but it hasn't robbed us of spending time with God. And so that's why one of the reasons we've been looking recently in the church at this thing called the way of life, where we look at our daily, our weekly, our regular practices of what we're going to do. And we can all at this time do that, have that way of life where we make a regular practice of spending time with God and just bringing his presence into our lives moment by moment. So if you haven't done that already, I just wanted to ask you at this time to think about what your way of life is going to be. Are you going to make that time daily and weekly to do these things, spend time in prayer, in worship, whatever it might be, to bring you closer to God? Okay, just going to finish by praying. Lord, I thank you that your Spirit lives in us. Your presence is here with us right now. In all of us as we're meeting separately. I just pray that you'd help us find time. You'd help us prioritize you and make time just to be in your presence, to spend time showing our love for you and receiving your love for us, Lord. And I pray just as we do that, your presence will fall, that all of our houses will become just habitations of your presence. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.